I want to just say a couple words. Prior to that, I want to thank everybody for showing up. It's nice to have a good crowd like this, and it's well deserved because we have a heck of a speaker on tap for us tonight, Larry Garrett, and we're so lucky to have him join us. I know it's quite late where he is. He'll be going at this until 10 o'clock time in Chicago. But it's fabulous to see everybody. It's been a while.
Sorry, let's have everybody put themselves on mute before you start talking, okay?
Sure.
Everybody mute yourselves, please.
Everybody mute themselves. Can they still hear me then? Okay. All right. So as I was saying, it's excellent, just wonderful to have so many people joining. I'm sure we're going to have a few more joining in that I know of as we go through the session here. And of course, Larry Garrett's a big draw. When Kate suggested that Larry would be a great speaker for us, that was very exciting to be able to do that, to get him here, because he's like Lindsay Brady, he's world class. And he's been doing this for 50 years. I mean, he started in 1968, I believe, Larry. 1968, that's a long time. So, as I promised, Kate is going to do the introduction. I'll step out and mute myself and let you take care of that. Go ahead, Kate.
So I'm going to wing my introduction. I'm not going to read from the thing. You can do that as well. But what I would like to say about Larry, gosh, I met Larry, geez, it must be back in the early 90s, back when, and I really, we just kind of clicked at a conference. He had met and he'd actually heard about me, which I thought was kind of interesting, because I thought I was really just, I was only in practice for, I guess, maybe about 6 years at that particular time. What I can say about Larry is that he is basically the hypnotist you want to aspire to be, as well as a presenter, a speaker, a humanitarian. He embodies all of these different attributes. When I talk to clients, I say, when I talk about comparing yourself to other people, I say, don't compare yourself to another person. You are a unique individual. Aspire to an example. And then I bring up Larry Garrett, and I says, Larry Garrett and I are both hypnotherapists. We're both presenters, we're both authors, and we share many commonalities. I says, but I never compare myself to Larry. I would just hide under a rock. No, I aspire to Larry Garrett's example in terms of being the best hypnotherapist that I can be, to be the best presenter that I can be, and when I'm writing my books and stuff like that, to put my heart into it, and the level of compassion and humanitarianism. I don't know if you learned that from Ken Kais or that was one of your teachers, Larry, but again, Larry looks at you, who you are, not where you've been, not what you've done, but really who you are. And that's attributed to when he worked with Uday Hussein, Saddam Hussein's son, when he was having some psychological issues after it was an assassination attempt. Wasn't he riddled with like 15 bullets, Larry?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and they had found that he had had the best doctors and stuff like that, but there was still some issues going on. And in that part of the world, to not be a strong, tough man, he was in line to be the next dictator, or I'm sorry, I don't want to be disrespectful.
Leader
of the country. Thank you. Like I said, I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody's country. He had a problem with a limp, and so there were people who scoured the world for hypnotherapists who could help him, and they looked through many people, and then they found Larry, and he was definitely able to help. But there are some people who tend to pass judgment on other people of their path in life, what they have done, maybe what they haven't done. But Larry doesn't look at people in that way. He looks at you, maybe even sees the soul of who you are, and takes you at the value in which he presents himself. So there's so many different ways that, again, I think tonight that we can learn so much from Larry, and just, again, the genuineness of his presentation. He's kind of like me in ways where he knows what he wants to speak about. He doesn't necessarily study a script or anything. He just speaks from his heart. So it's with my greatest pleasure that I introduce Larry Garrett of the Garrett Hypnosis and Wellness Center. And I will have a wonderful night.
Great.
Skip, did you want to give the particular formal introduction in terms of his letters and E's?
No, we don't need anything formal, right?
Okay,
From the heart, from the consciousness.
from the heart.
I'm
Trying to
excited.
find my unmute, so I found it. Yeah, no, everybody's read. I mean, Larry's
Okay.
reputation speaks for itself. We can all read what he's done. I think it's time for Larry to
Yeah,
do his thing.
thank
Do
you.
it to
You
it.
know, Kate brings up a great issue that I'm going to comment on. I've run my life by it probably since around 1970. I trained in 1968 with a man named Fred Chauvel here in the Chicago. And training in hypnosis, I think of Kay, who just trained with Lindsay, and I mentioned that I would sure pay some attention to her tonight and say to you that around 1970 is when I opened up a door and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And as I begin this presentation, I think I share with you how, so that this way Kay can hear it, and anybody else who's doing hypnosis but would like to do it maybe for a livelihood, or for me, it's a gift. I don't feel like I'm working when I do hypnosis. So my mother was a great motivator of mine. I was raised by a single mom. She had great confidence. To tell you how much confidence, she had her own business in the 40s when women weren't even allowed to have a credit card or get a loan, and ran a pretty successful life. And then later on took care of me and things of that type. Well, Kate brings up an interesting thought that reminds me of my mom. I was at a meeting, the Association to Advance Ethical Hypnosis. They're no longer around as they were. They were at one time the largest hypnosis group in the country, maybe in the world, because they had some in other countries, and they had about 700 members. So 700 members of hypnotists in 1970 was quite a few. However, they were all kind of stodgy and tight, and they all wearing white shirts and ties, and they looked professional. And I smile as I say that, because I think professional is our consciousness, not how we're dressed always. So I was sitting in this meeting with my mom, who's also a hypnotist, by the way. She was a nurse and practicing nurse, an RN, and did a lot of hypnosis. She worked mostly with the elderly, and she said how easy they were to hypnotize. So we're sitting in this meeting. There's about 100 people at this meeting. Remember, this is 1970, whole different world in 1970. It was a time of LSD, time of a lot of radical changes, a time of things going different. And I'm looking around, I'm checking out everybody. And my mother noticed it, and she whispers to me, and she said, don't compete with these people, you will lose. Just be the best Larry Garrett you can. And that's what Kate reminded me of to start this presentation. So to this day, I have admired her and adhered to her wording, and I choose not to compete. To share with you how much I choose not to compete, I seldom ever go on another hypnotist's website to see what they're doing unless they've invited me to. Larry, would you look at my website? Tell me what you think. Gladly. I am here for everybody who has a need, and open my arms to that person, but I'm not going to go digging for that person. What are they doing? What are they doing? Because it reminds me of two people running, maybe more than two, and they're running side by side. And this one person starts gaining a little momentum, and the other person starts becoming intimidated and slows down, and the other person wins. Now, in athletics, I'm sure we need competition. But I think when we're giving the gift of love that hypnosis is to me, it's best not to compete, and it's best just to be who you are. If nothing else in this evening, I give you a message of being the best you can. It's not about what I'm sharing with you and telling you what's a good induction technique. I really don't know. When I spoke to Skip originally, I said, Skip, How about if we do something on pre-talk? No, we've got enough pre-talk. Let's do something on inductions. Well, I'm going to acknowledge that seldom do I speak on something like inductions, because to me, inductions are like telling the artist how to paint. And to me, inductions are your creativity. If we were to look at this practice of hypnosis as being an art rather than a practice or a job or whatever else we may call it, just an art. We all have different styles. Some people might like oil colors. Some people might like pastels. Some people watercolors. Some people maybe sculptures. They're all accurate in their design and their creativity. What makes this artist successful, whether it be a musician or a poet or a writer or an artist of painting, what makes this person successful is creating something masses all want. Creating something that your client or whatever business a person might be in, your customer desires. I say the words the best I can. Never mind what you want, listen to your client. They'll tell you what will work. And you'll say, well, this will work best. If you don't have an accurate pre-talk, you really don't know what will work best. So the greatest induction to me is the pre-talk, to learn who this person is, how do they think, how do they view life. And I like what Kate said earlier, and she mentioned a couple of names from my past, and that one is Ken Keyes, who wrote 9 books on consciousness. And one of my favorites, a little outdated now, but it was called a Handbook of Higher Consciousness. And the Handbook of Higher Consciousness taught me how to live the moment and love unconditionally. Prior to that class, I did not know anything about living the moment. I was always angry about yesterday that I didn't do it, and I was worried about tomorrow that it might not happen. And I seldom sat in the moment. And loving myself, whoa, I couldn't even begin to imagine. All right, I could love others. My mother taught me how to love people. Don't judge, don't criticize, don't be prejudiced, just love. And I learned how to love, but I didn't know how to love myself at that time. So with this training goes way back. That's training I took in 1979, and it's never left me, by the way. I could probably share a lot of stories of that. And I learned those 2 skills. I learned many more, but those 2, live the moment and love myself unconditionally. So you can't mess with me. You can't judge me. You know, I have to share with you, I have had many critical statements made to me about hypnotizing Uday Hussein. How could you hypnotize this man, the worst man in the world? I wonder if we would tell a surgeon, you can't operate on that person. He's a killer, he's a murderer, he's a rapist. I think we need to view ourselves at a professional level like the AMA would view the medical practice. I think we need to view ourselves with integrity, with professionalism. For many years, and I switched back over to Kay and say, when I began hypnosis, I was almost shy about letting people know, because I'd say, well, I do hypnosis. Hypnosis, what's that about? And you could feel the judgments immediately, so you would kind of shut down a little bit and not tell people. Today, I brag about it. I share about it. I'm going to tell you about induction techniques, but first let me tell you who I am and what I'm about, and then you'll see why the induction techniques that I use work well. I ask you this question to ponder on. Before we do anything, I want you to do this. Skip had mentioned in the email that we would have questions or comments later, but I don't know how to lecture. I know how to present. I know how to interact with you. So if you have a comment, a question, a challenge, if you don't agree with me, anything, hold up your hand or wave to me, and I will watch the screen. And if I see that, I will pause. And even if I lose what I'm saying, which I do often, you know, I'm kind of a spacer. I'm a Pisces. I seldom hold myself together. I'm all over the place, as you'll see. But if you have something, it's more important than what I have to say. So as I began to say, I used to sort of shy away from letting people know I was doing hypnosis. Now I brag about it. Some of you may have heard I went through some cancer treatment this past year, and I did well. In fact, I didn't do well. I did excellent. I did excellent. I was told it would probably take a year and a half to be cancer-free. I was cancer-free in less than 8 months. And one of the greatest experiences I had was in one of my last chemo treatments. And one of the people that are on right now, Teresita was my oncology nurse. And Teresita says, and what do you do? I says, I'm a hypnotist. Oh my God, tell me about it. I'm so excited. Well, ever since then, that was back in September. No, that was before September. That was probably maybe August. Teresita has been doing everything she could to learn about hypnosis. In fact, as I say, she's on tonight. And I know she's back in school and doing her nurse practitioner studies, and she found time to be here. That's her importance. So I say to you again, just hold your hand up if you have a comment or a question. So bring it to my attention, your issues, not mine. I know what I'm doing. You know, as Skip or Kate introduced me, being involved in hypnosis almost as long as Lindsay, I have to say that after that amount of time, it's no longer an issue of what is going on with me. It's what is going on with you and what are your needs. So I might move on and say, okay, so to me, the induction begins as you answer your phone, as you reply to an email. I'm not sure how all of you or any of you do your hypnosis. I'm not even sure how many of you do hypnosis. Prior to my setback with this thing called cancer, prior to that time, I was doing quite a bit of hypnosis. Over the years, I've had a full-time practice. I've earned my living fully with hypnosis since 1970. I started doing hypnosis actually during my training in 1968, and I had business cards printed up, and I've got one in the other room, kind of hokey, but it was exciting for me at the time. And it was a little blue card, and it says, Larry Garrett, professional hypnotist. And then it had an eyeball. When you tilted the card, the eyeball would wink like that. And so I remember my instructor, Fred Chavo, saying, what makes you a professional? So, of course, we didn't have anything like internet then. I run to the dictionary and I look up professional, a person who gets paid. Well, my goal was now to get paid. So I go back and say a person who gets paid is a professional. So I began doing stage hypnosis. And some of you might be familiar with Chicago. And I went up and down Milwaukee Avenue. At that time was all clubs. And I stopped at this one club. Mary, did you have a comment? I can't see which voice came on. Okay. As Ash Secretary, what's your name, Secretary?
Debbie.
Jody.
Jody?
Yeah.
Okay, Jody. So Jody said, mute yourself if you're going to speak, and that's okay. It's like me, I've got Jack behind you somewhere. He'll start barking, but since I'm speaking, I have no control over that. But anyway, thank you, Jody. So I go along and I'm looking for a place to do stage hypnosis. And you say, what makes you good at stage hypnosis? Nothing makes me good at stage hypnosis, but I learned in class how to hypnotize somebody. And the first induction technique that I ever experienced, which I no longer use in Illinois, we've got some pretty strict rules about touching. And I remember my instructor, Fred Chavo, he'd take his two fingers and he'd say, when I touch your forehead on a count of three, close your eyes, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom. And I just happen to be a great subject. You know, the best hypnotists are the best subjects. If you're a good, and you might say, oh, I'm not a good subject. Yeah, that's what they all say. Once you let go, you become a good subject. And so that's how I was hypnotized the first time. So, well, that's cool. It's easy for me to go in some club and say, on a count of three, when I touch your forehead, close your eyes and go deep asleep. And I never use that word anymore. I'm starting at this infancy of my professional life, moving on to now to kind of give you an idea how things change. You know, 1969, 70 was a different world. In fact, it was so different. I had a little storefront office, was my first office. And it was really a storefront with a big window and a place in front. We had it loaded with plants and a big thing in the front with a hypno disc. Can you picture that? And the neighbors called the city on me 3 times, and the city of Chicago sent their inspectors to see what I was doing because the neighbors told them we were doing witchcraft. And so how it's changed till now. But this is life. This is the history. I'm telling you the history because I want to share with you induction techniques. So I go into this club and it's called Lucifer's Den. What an appropriate title for a hypnotist, right? So this guy, I remember these stories like yesterday. You hear a song play that was significant to you when you were 16 years old and you're walking along with your first love, and that becomes our song. And you hear that song 30, 40 years later, and boom, you're back there with that person, what you were wearing, what the weather was like, what you were doing, without a doubt. You can't remember where you put your car keys 5 minutes ago, but you could remember what you were doing 20 or 30 years ago. I see Debbie laughing there. She's saying, you're right, you're right. So I remember Lucifer's Den, and the owner's name was Rocky. Rocky was this big, muscular guy. He looked more like the bouncer, excuse my nose here, looked more like the bouncer than he looked like a club owner. He said, if you can hypnotize me, you've got the job. So, remember when we're naive, Kay, I might share this story with you. When you're naive, you could do anything. Once you learn more about it, you become a little more selective, a little more, maybe I better check this out. So I hypnotized Rocky, got a couple of guys watching. So I didn't know any better then, but I did what every stupid guy does in the beginning. I put Rocky across two chairs. Suggested that he becomes rigid and stiff like a bar of steel. Fortunately, it didn't turn cold, but a bar of steel across two chairs. So with a Polaroid, some of you remember Polaroids, they take a picture of him. We take him off the chairs, and he opens his eyes and he says, see, I told you can't hypnotize me. Of course, I got the job. He saw the photo. And I was there 21 weeks at $25 a show, 2 shows on the same night for $35, 21 weeks. Don't you think that I gained some insight and some experience? One of the greatest lessons I ever had was at Lucifer's Den. Never mind my induction techniques, because I would learn different ones all the time. I would say, and watch your fingers, and when they touch together, close your eyes and relax. And the person would, didn't matter anymore, as I will share with you in a little while. So 21 weeks later, I'm becoming pretty good, because when you could go to a club where most of the people are drunk, harassing you, challenging you, and come out successful, you're doing okay. On stage hypnosis, you can't say, you're resisting, because everybody will laugh at you. But I did have a great failure that gave me a great lesson. I was working one evening, and not working, I was playing, I was doing hypnosis. I remember the band that would play between my sets, and they'd come up to me, they'd say, I bet you can't do that to me. And I'd say, watch, 1, 2, 3, boom, they'd close their eyes. And I'd say something like, you can't say your first name or something, and it would work. So remember, stage hypnosis looks like magic, but so does clinical hypnosis look like magic. And here's why. To me, magic is a misdirection of the vision. So the hypnotist holds up his right hand and he says, watch this trick, or she says, watch this trick, while they pull a string with their left hand. So as you're misdirected visually, the trick is being performed. So in hypnosis, we misdirect or distract the logical mind to speak to the emotional mind. There lies our induction. We're distracting the logical mind, whether it be touching the forehead or touching the fingers or whatever we're doing. We're distracting the logical mind to communicate to the emotional mind. Go back to Rocky and Lucifer's Den. So one night, I have a group of people, usually it'd be 5, 6, 7 people. And I said these words, remember them well. On the count of 3, I want you to open your eyes, stuck to the chair, remembering nothing. 1, 2, 3. And they all opened their eyes. And I said, okay, I'd like you to attempt to stand up. And they all stood up. I was so embarrassed. There's a great phrase, I won't use it, but I'm going to say my stomach dropped down to my knees. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. Fortunately, I recorded everything I did. So I do have recordings from the 70s of how lousy I was doing hypnosis then. And the recording, I went home and I listened to it. What did I do wrong? Does anybody out there have an idea what I did wrong? Come on, hypnotist. Go ahead, please, Stephanie, you got it. Stephanie, it's good to meet you again. I just met you last Sunday, didn't I? Good. I can't hear you. You're on, you're muted now. No, please, let's hear it.
Larry, you told them to forget everything that they heard, and so they forgot what you
Yeah,
told them.
okay, so Stephanie couldn't get the voice. Thanks so much, Skip. You're right. So I said, on the count of three, stuck to the chair, remembering nothing. So they didn't remember they were stuck to the chair.
You just got to tell her to unmute her mic.
Yeah, she did. It still didn't work. Still
Okay,
didn't.
because I can still see it's muted.
Yeah, but she did turn off the mute, didn't you, Stephanie? You play with it. There, see, she's not muted, are you, Stephanie? She just speaks quietly. So it's a nonverbal technique. Okay, so you're right, Skip. Thank you, and thank you, Stephanie. I know you had it as well. I reversed the suggestions. So that taught me one skill that I have maintained for 50 years. The last suggestion you give your client is the strongest suggestion. So today my wording usually is following all suggestions, feeling great. Following all suggestions with great success. Whatever I'm saying is the last one is the strongest from my perception. Remember again, for all of you sitting here today, this is not about me saying something that is the law or ruled, or this is just my opinion. I welcome you with challenges. I welcome you with disagreements, and I welcome you with any comments or questions you might have, because I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only sharing stories of what Larry Garrett does. You know, I was invited. I'm honored that Kate suggested to Skip to invite me. I was invited to be here. So I'm the only one right now. I'm not muted. So that means I'm in control. So I'm just saying what I'm saying. You don't need to agree with me. I'm just here. Okay, so we go further. To me, the induction is a piece of art. It's a piece of art that you're going to create. It's a piece of art that you're going to be speaking to the subconscious mind or to the soul of the individual. You're not speaking to the logic. You know, I might share at this point, my mind flashes a lot. Again, as I said earlier, you might doubt it, but Kate will tell you I'm a pretty spacey guy. And some of those that know me will adhere to that. And I share with you like this, that I have many writings, if you have interest, on a manual. I have a 40 or 50 page manual on smoking and regressions and pre-talk. I have manuals on other topics, and I have many articles. I have about 200 articles I've written. And if you have an interest on a specific topic of hypnosis, please contact me and I'll email it off to you. The reason I bring that up is because I've done many workshops on different topics, and one was smoking. So my mind immediately flashes to hypnotizing a smoker. And I'm sure that if any of you have been to conferences or read some books on hypnosis, you've heard different methods of hypnotizing a smoker. The challenge that I find is that too many hypnotists speak to the conscious mind, and the conscious mind knows what to do. I have little phrases I make up, and I say the conscious mind knows and the subconscious mind feels. So the conscious mind says, I know I shouldn't smoke that cigarette, but I feel like smoking that cigarette. So what we know and what we feel are not congruent with each other. What we know is what we know. What we feel is what runs our life. So I give you a few examples as you sit there. I say to you something like this. I will say it for you. I know I'm okay, but I feel like I'm not. I know I look good, but I feel ugly. I know I have enough money, but I feel broke. Do any of you ever experience those conflicts? Isn't that an interesting one? That's a good conflict. You know, money's a good example. Prosperity is a good example. Some of you maybe were raised without much money, like myself and many others. And now you have enough money, but you still feel impoverished. You still feel broke. I don't know if I could afford that. My mother died a pretty wealthy woman, and she would go in a store and say, oh, they want $25 for that table. That's too much money. I purchased that table for her just to make a point. I still have it to this day because it's significant and symbolic that here she is, a woman of comfort, and she's not going to spend $25 because it's too much money. She also had 5 custom houses built over her life, and each house would have a large pantry. Some of you might have pantries. I live in a house, as you can tell, it's over 100 years old, and I do have a large pantry because that's what they had years ago. They didn't have cabinets. And I said to her one day, why do you have 8 cans of coffee and 12 cans of peas? Well, because they were on sale. So again, I remember I'm speaking about a person who's not impoverished, but acts impoverished. And she was also Italian. That might give you some hints. And so she said, they were on sale. No, that's not why you purchased them. Tell me why. Well, when I was younger, it was during Depression and we didn't have food and I swore I'd never be without food again. So you see how our subconscious mind follows us wherever we go. The only way that I know of, and I've done it for myself, and I do contribute to the quick healing of cancer that I experienced, is by being in the moment, by not going to the future. Everybody around me was more scared of my health than I was scared of my health. And if any of you have ever had cancer, it's not an easy experience to go through. Teresita is my oncology nurse sitting there. You could see her there, and she'll acknowledge the fact that she works with a lot of cancer patients. And we talk about it. We talk about how they cry or scream or yell or throw things at the nurses or docs, and because they're freaking out. And I'm not an egotistical person, but I'm a real confident person. And I'll bet you Teresita will acknowledge the fact that I'm probably one of the most relaxed patients she ever worked with. And it just says that we can't fear. If we fear, then we lose what we have and we draw the past into existence. And you say, what does that got to do with inductions? It has a lot to do with inductions. Is it any easier, is it any more difficult to hypnotize a person than fly a plane, do you think? Good question. Y'all saying, of course not. Then how come the pilot never says, I hope I could land this thing? And hypnotists will often say, I hope I could hypnotize that person. Where did that come from? We're not allowed, as my eyes go all over, I'm looking at the screen here. We're not allowed to hope we could do something. We need to wear the confidence in hypnosis as a hypnotist or hypnotherapist, whatever you call yourself. We need to wear that confidence like the pilot is wearing the confidence of landing that plane, like the oncology nurse is feeling the confidence of sticking that IV in you as she starts pouring that chemo poison into your system. We can't say, oh, I hope I get it in the right vein. Teresita, you ever say that one? And so, because I had somebody the other day came and did labs over here for me, and she's, oops, I got it in the wrong place. So since she went to the other arm, I could show you I'm full of bruises because she missed the arms. And so, but we can't do that. You see, we need to be precise. We need to be exact. And I'm exact. I am a precise person. As I speak, you might hear me selling with a little ego. No, there's a great phrase that says it's not ego when it's true. And it's true as I share with you my words. Remember, again, 50 years, this is what I do for a living. I've never advertised. I've never asked somebody to come back. I've never promoted coming to see me. If you go on my website, you'll see it's soft sell. It's just saying this is what hypnosis is. And then it might tell you about Larry Garrett. But I'm not here to tell a person, come and see me and lose 20 pounds. I don't even know how to hypnotize somebody to lose weight. Do you? We use those words, though. We use the words to say, I'm going to hypnotize you to quit smoking. No. They need to quit smoking. You could hypnotize them to learn how to not need to smoke. I'm going to hypnotize that person to lose weight. No, that's their issue to lose weight. You need to hypnotize them to control their eating, or whatever the wording you might use is. So be aware of your language, because your language is going to generate more success. The more success you have in your language, the more success you'll have with your client. Because imagine a client that you say, okay, let's hypnotize you to quit smoking. And the person doesn't quit smoking. Guess whose fault it is? Yours. Yours. You're the one who said you're going to hypnotize them to quit smoking, but that wasn't it. So choose your words carefully and selectively. I spoke to a friend recently who had a meeting with her superior today. And I said, well, just pretend like this person is just another person. Don't look at this person like he is your boss or your superior. But it's not easy to do, because the intimidation of losing your job might cause you to feel in some way that you need to be a little cowardly, a little weak in your inductions. You want to speak with your induction as though you are flying that plane and you know it's going to land. I have little tricks I use. I want to say tricks because remember, hypnosis is to the mind what magic is to the eyes. Hypnosis is to distract you from the logic. So one of the tricks that I use is I say to my client, how do you wish to feel when we're through with the hypnosis so you know we are going to have success? Think of that statement or question or comment. I assume all of you have been hypnotized. Anybody shake their head no? Okay, excuse me. If you've been hypnotized, how do you feel when you open your eyes after a nice induction? Any thoughts on that? Somebody want to comment? Come on, talk to me. I'm not going to sit here and lecture for 2 hours.
Well,
Relax.
it's usually wonderful. You know, sometimes I feel like
bliss.
I've been to another planet.
Okay. So was that Karen speaking? Who-
That was Kate.
Kate. Oh, Kate. Sorry, Kate. Okay. I saw Karen's yellow light come on. I thought she was speaking. You're not.
I think we both started speaking at the same
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay. So that was a good answer, Kate. One more time, please, because I got distracted trying to figure out who was talking to me.
Well, Kate
We're
speaking, I
finished. We're all
felt,
finished with
I would feel sometimes that I'm on, you know, I'm coming down from another planet where I've been on some sort of excursion and vacation, and
Good.
I feel calm and I feel centered. I feel at ease.
Good.
There is no
Yes.
concerns.
Yeah, good. Karen, did you have a comment on that? Karen Peck?
I can't see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. I see a picture, a photo of you.
Yeah.
You go to the.
I had a hard time getting on the hearing part.
Okay.
No, I feel great after I've been hypnotized. Relax. I feel great.
Good. Okay, so now let's go back to my,
Larry, hold on one sec. Karen, your camera is off.
Karen's camera is off. Yes, Karen, lower left-hand corner, there's a little picture with a camera. It's probably got a red line through it. Did you see it, Karen?
No, because if I turn it on where I can see you, I can't hear you. So I'm on a speaker that I can't see you anymore. If I turn on where I can see you, then I can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong.
On my Zoom, in the upper right-hand corner, if you bring your cursor up there, there'll be a mute, and then there'll be a little box with 3 dots. If you click on the 3 dots, it'll say Start Video.
Good. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. You hear that, Karen?
Get on there.
Yes. Yeah, it'd be more fun if you could see and hear me because I talk with my hands.
I would love to, but I thought listening was better than nothing. I'm
As
gonna.
well, as well
Some-
as if you go to the bottom, if you just move your cursor on the bottom of your screen, you'll see the same thing. You'll see a mute, you'll see a stop or start video, and you can click on that as well. So there's 2 different ways to whip that horse.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Give it a try. Do it. You know, don't try. Karen, if you were having a party tomorrow and you say, Larry, can you make it? I say, I'll try. You think I'll be there?
Yeah, you know what that means.
Yeah. So
I'll be there.
yes, please, Deborah, go ahead.
So I've had the pleasure of being hypnotized by Larry many times, person, and as well as he's had wonderful CDs that I still listen to. And it's magical because, you know, at the end, because you feel like you've been floating, you just feel wonderful. I've, you know, distracted from the whole world and just intensely knowing that deep inside that it was just a wonderful experience. So I've been hypnotized
Wonderful.
by the best. And I'd like to say one other thing. I've only been practicing for 6 years. And my first Midwest hypnosis conference, I went through the whole weekend. And at the end, Larry was always the end speaker to lift us all up. And the very first time that I met him and I heard him speak at the end, there was so much reassurance because after going through this whole conference and listening to these wonderful, wonderful hypnotists that had many years experience, I thought, how in the world am I ever going to do this? I did not have the confidence because these people were all brilliant. And, you know, I just started and I went my first year to the conference. And so after hearing Larry and hearing him say, you know, and I said, oh, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I still say that for the same reason, Kate, you did. You know, I aspire to be like you.
Mhm.
Larry has said, you know, you can only be the best Deborah Andrews you can be. And that gave me so much hope and confidence that, well, maybe I can be good at this, because I was very passionate about it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But again, you know, you see all these brilliant people and you think, how in the world am I ever going to do this? But because Larry said those words, you know, that his mother told him, I said, well, I'm never going to be Larry Garrett. I'm only going to be the best that I can. And, you know, I've been doing pretty well. So thank you, Larry. You know, I love you.
Thank you, Deborah. I love you too.
Hey, we got
Kate,
Karen Peck. She's on
I
video.
agree. Hi, Karen. Good.
I've got it all.
Oh, you got it all, Karen. You sure do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, wonderful statement there, Deborah. Thank you. And the reason that they make me last at all of Midwest, Mid-America Hypnosis Conference, because I talk too much. Because I always run a little over, but you know, when I heard Skip was giving me 2 hours, I thought, oh boy, I probably do something. You notice I haven't even started yet, and we've probably almost used up an hour and a half here. So I better get myself busy talking about induction techniques. So I started to suggest about inductions are like a piece of art. And this art is created by what the client told you before the hypnosis, which is pre-talk. By the way, I do have a 50-page manual on pre-talks if you have an interest. It is one of my favorites because I always feel if I do a good pre-talk, I'm going to have success. I might go back to Deborah for a moment. Deborah, if you turn your mic back on. Did I say to you or ask you, how do you want to feel when we're finished?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So I attempt never to forget that. And here's why. Because what you heard from Karen and Kate and Deborah, that many of us could attest to, is we feel good. Now, if you're coming in for a goal of anything, I want to do public speaking. How do you feel about public speaking is what you need to find out during your pre-talk. Do you feel confident? Do you feel good? Do you feel nervous? Whatever you're feeling, negatively speaking, will not exist when we're finished with the hypnosis. I think we could all agree with that. Do you not think so?
Yeah.
Think of that. Yeah. As a stage hypnotist, I learned waking hypnosis suggestions were very powerful. Waking suggestions are suggestions that some of your parents gave your kids. Waking suggestions are things that you might tell a cop to get out of a ticket. Waking suggestions are getting a person to perceive what you say is true. They work the best when your logical mind is distracted. Kate and Deborah had similar comments of, oh, I feel like I'm floating. I feel like I'm on another planet. In other words, you're not being very loud. You feel high is what you're feeling. You're feeling high and you say, life is good. How about this one? Anything you say, Larry, sounds good to me. Yes. You see, because at that moment, your mind is very susceptible. It's soft like clay, and it could be shaped in any way you wish. Teresita and anybody else here who works with the medical profession, when that patient is feeling at peace, you could create magic in their mind. You could teach that mind, that body to heal with their mind if you could just lead them to a peaceful place. And so some of you might say, well, I'm going to lead a patient who has cancer to a peaceful place, or a person who has COVID to a peaceful place. There's something peaceful. I ask all of you this question. This goes back again to the idea of inductions. Think of something in your life, someone in your life, anything that you trust, anything. Just think of that. Kay, just been trained by Lindsay. We'll pick on you for a moment. Can you think of something, Kay, that you trust, you feel good with, you're feeling okay with trust? It's got to be trust.
A person or
It could be anything, anything. I want you to feel the energy. I want you to feel the energy of trust, not the label, not the label. I trust my mother. I trust my dog. No, the feeling, the essence of trust.
I trust, I've really been able to get to those feelings in my relationship with the planet.
Yes. Okay. So you're trusting the
Earth.
right now. By the way, if my scope and my view is accurate, you notice that Kay goes up to the upper left with her eyes as she's thinking of something she trusts, which is implying to me she's using her emotions to find this emotion called trust. Anybody give me something more defined than the planet right now that you trust? As Jody pulls on her hair, I say, Jody, you have something there. I can tell by the smile on your face.
I'm always smiling.
I know. I've
No,
watched. I'm watching all of you.
I trust in myself. I trust in my intuition deeply.
Good, good. Okay. So Jody and Kay and all the rest of you, experience what it is that you trust, your intuition, the planet. And there's a feeling, there's an essence to what trust feels like. Yes, yes. Shake your head.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Every public speaker likes a head nodder. Did you know that? They all want yes. Thanks, Stephanie. You don't need a voice. You're saying volumes with your head. So anyway, so you find something you trust. You find something you could say, yes. Now tell me, any of you, you don't have to tell me, but you could think of what I'm asking. What is there that you cannot do when you feel the essence trust? When you feel that energy called trust, what can you not do?
There's only flow.
Anything, anything. Good, Kate.
Right, there's only flow.
Say it again, Kate.
I says there's only flow. There's flow. It's flow.
Flow, so S-L-O-W?
Flow, F-L-O-W. Yes, there's
Oh,
flow.
flow, yeah,
It's
flow,
moving from one
F-L-O-W,
thing to
yeah.
the next, easily,
flow.
effortlessly. It's an effortlessness.
So effortlessly. And I have to tell you, as I was growing up, I was a different person. I had very strong insecurities. You're raised by a single mom, you don't know how to catch a ball. You don't play football because you might get hurt. And so you aren't much of a jock. And so as a young person, I should have, I didn't have the same characteristics as other people. And people would say, Larry, you're so naive, you believe everything. I did. And that has been a gift to me now. I believe anything that I put in my mind now. I really do. Deborah will tell you, she's known me a few years. Kate's known me many, many years. And Craig Pesic on the screen there, he works in my office and spent a lot of time with me. He'll tell you, I could do anything. I say it sincerely. I could do anything. I could create, I could manifest. I've been a great Wayne Dyer follower. And I remember when he wrote his book on manifestation, he says, single out what it is you desire and just go for it. And he used to speak about the cat chasing his tail. The guy says, why are you chasing your tail? And the cat says, I heard I will have the riches of life if I catch my tail. And he says, well, don't you know if you just go through life, your tail will follow you everywhere you go. So that says to me, don't go around chasing your tail. Just decide what you want, feel the essence of trust, and then go take care of life. If you say, I want to get a new home, this word intent is the most powerful word I could think of, intent. If any of you are animal lovers, as I am, you can tell by that guy sleeping on the couch back there. And if any of you are animal lovers, there's a great book I often share with people, and it's called Kinship with All Life. And it was written in the late 50s about a guy who was dog sitting for Rin Tin Tin, famous movie star dog. Not that I remember him for sure, but it was a long time ago. Rin Tin Tin was his famous dog, so he's going to dog sit while the owners are in New York. He says, I've never had a dog. I don't know how to raise them. Maybe I'll let the dog tell me what to do. So that's how the book starts, that he's learning from the dog how to communicate with the dog. Well, dogs communicate, their ears will go up or they'll look at you, Jack here behind me, we have many communications together. If you have an animal, a good friend of mine says, nobody knows how we speak to our animals when we're alone. The animal communicates with intent. Let's go back to you wanting to buy a new home. So you and your partner or spouse go and look at this new place. And you say, oh, we'll hang the picture there. We'll put the TV there, put the couch there. That's called intent to purchase. That becomes your home. I would almost venture to put a bet on it that if you went to look at a place and you designed it in your mind with that kind of intent, you will get the mortgage. You say, well, what if we don't get the mortgage? Well, there goes the end of the trust, right? That's the trust. What if the landlord doesn't like me? Well, that's the end of the trust. But if you just maintain this energy of intent, just maintain it. If I have a client come in my office, I am maintaining an intent of success, without a doubt. And I speak with that confidence.
May I interject?
Yes, please, please.
So Larry and I were at probably the Mid-America Hypnosis Conference one year back somewhere in the 90s. And I had walked into the ballroom where we had our dinner, and there was different prizes and stuff like that going on. And I remember coming in and they had a top prize, and I was intent on winning that prize. And I generally don't win things. And I passed by Larry and I said hello, and I says, Larry says, I'm gonna get that first prize. I says, oh no, it's mine. And I did.
That's called intent.
Mm-hmm.
And
I still have that tape set to this day.
Oh, good.
Yeah, cassette tapes. Remember cassette tapes?
No, I sure do. I still do my editing on cassette tapes. People say, you still use tapes? Oh, yeah, there's nothing better than editing. The man, by the way, I can't think of his name right now, who invented the cassette tape died about 4 days ago. He was 94 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I say, General? She's shaking her head, yes. So she must have read that article or know about that. I thought that was significant. So especially when you mention cassette tapes. Yes, that's intent. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe a deep spirituality that anything that we desire, as long as it's for our good, will work out. We go back to this issue of judging. If you judge your client, you're not going to have much success. I have hypnotized many murderers. I'm going to share a couple of stories with you as we go along. And I've hypnotized, of course, as you heard Uday Hussein. You can't judge. I remember I spent about 60 hours with Uday Hussein in Baghdad. I was there on 9/11. If any of you remember where you were on 9/11, I was in Baghdad, Iraq. And so I was there twice. I was there in April of 2001, again in September. In fact, I got stuck there for about 19 days or so. And I remember Uday saying to me, how come you're not scared of me? And I said, scared of you? Why would I be scared of you? You invited me here. And he made a comment. He says, everybody else is. Well, of course, he threatens everybody else. He intimidates them. But he wasn't doing that to me because my confidence was amusing to him, because it wasn't an ego. It was just matter of fact. The first time I hypnotized Uday Hussein, we were in a room in this hospital, and he was laying on a kind of, I don't know what they call him, Teresita probably knows, I think it's gurney or something. He was but he hadn't yet, he was sitting on the edge of it. And there's about 10 people in the room. Wherever Uday Hussein went, by the way, he always had bodyguards, and all these bodyguards weren't just standing around. They would actually have a gun in their hand all the time. They'd be holding that gun like something was going to happen. And this was in his own hometown. So you can imagine how he felt threatened. And as Kate mentioned earlier, he was shot 15 times. So in the beginning, I learned this in stage hypnosis. I needed to take control. And I don't mean control as a control freak. I mean control with a confidence that I know what I'm doing. And if you want success right now, you'll have to follow along with me. So I needed to maintain this control. And I look around the room and I see these 10 people. And I say to Uday Hussein, I say, this is not a theatrical performance. This is a very intimate experience, and we can't have this audience here. So of course he looked at me for a moment with a little shock, because here I am telling him what to do. and he says something in Arabic, and I don't know if any of you know the Arabic language, but it's a very guttural sound, almost like scolding, you know. And everybody left except two people. One was a medical person with a white jacket on, and the other one was his mentor and side person. And everybody else left. I knew at that moment that my success would be there for him, and it was. I came home alive, so I must have had success, you know. But that's the kind of confidence we need to wear with whoever we're going to hypnotize. And you're going to meet people. You're going to meet very significant people. You're going to meet, you know, maybe the governor of Arizona. You're going to meet some important celebrity. You know, I've hypnotized many celebrities. I hypnotized Rock Hudson, and I remember everybody in the neighborhood was crazy because here he was. And I needed to say, this is not a celebrity. This is a man who wants to accomplish a goal. So we need to understand that there needs to be a language of some sort that is confidence from you and respect to your client. As soon as you judge, as I said earlier, you're not going to have the same success. Let's go back to induction techniques. So you're the artist and you need to create the induction technique. And I often use the analogy or metaphor to say, let's say you were really an artist and you were going to paint a landscape for your client. And so you sit with your client and you say, do you like flowers? You take some notes. Do you like trees? And you take some notes. Do you want any hills? And you take some notes. And so when you're all finished with this introduction, we'll call it in art and maybe pre-talk and hypnosis, you now have your notes of what you're going to put in this piece of art. So you do this beautiful painting and you give it to your client, and the client says, oh no, you don't have any water in there. I like water in my landscape. Well, you want to say to the person, well, you didn't tell me that. Maybe you didn't ask them either. Maybe you didn't have enough foresight to say, do you like water? Would you like me to put some water in there? You know, I have a piece of property about 100 miles from Chicago, and I have everything in this piece of property except big water. So I've got this little pond that the deer have dug out to drink water. So this summer, I'm going to hire somebody to dig this pond out bigger so that I have water, because water would be important to me. And, you know, you didn't tell the person. So when you do your pre-talk, what's important to this person? Never mind what you think will work, your client will tell you. Let me see. So be intuitive with your client. The more intuitive you are, the more success you're going to have in knowing what your client needs. When I speak about being intuitive, you would not be in the practice of hypnosis if you were not somewhat intuitive. Intuitive to me means you're able to feel their energy. Intuitive energies work greater when you're at peace. When you're at peace, you almost know what is. When you're not at peace, you use the energies that are contaminating your peacefulness to observe what is. If you ever look in the mirror when you're feeling real good, you say, hey, not bad for a guy my age. Look at me, I'm looking pretty good here. And then I get a phone call and somebody says, nope, that deal didn't go through you wanted, Larry. Oh, shit, now what do? I look in the mirror now, look at me, again, I've got wrinkles, I'm gaining weight, I'm not, yes, see, all of you know yes. So when you're at peace, you see everything. When you're not at peace, you look for what's wrong. Jerry, is that right? Is that right, Jerry? We just spoke about that today, didn't we? We spoke about today that Jerry's she's a grand hairstylist and colorist in Chicago. And we were speaking about somebody whose hair looked great. And the person left with their hair looking great. And a couple of days later says, the hair doesn't look so good. It's not looking good. Plus the photo didn't look good. I said, yeah, probably she looked in the mirror 3 days later when her boyfriend didn't call her up and he said, sorry, I can't make it. Or if he did call, sorry, I can't make it. And now she felt ugly. Look at me. Look at how terrible Jerry did my hair. You see? And I know I sound a little bit dramatic, but I am dramatic. You know, I run my life being dramatic. When I talk to clients, way I talk to a client, just like I'm speaking to you right now. I get excited for them and I say, yes, we're going to do some great things. Isn't that speaking to the subconscious mind? Sure is. Sure is. You don't
Pictures and
speak to the-
symbols,
Kate, go ahead.
pictures and symbols to the
Pictures and
subconscious
symbols.
mind. Yep.
Pictures and symbols. It's that big, we're going to do it. You're going to have that much success with your life. Those fingers are speaking more than my words. And my body's got to move with them. I've got to move in on them, you know. And if, you know, earlier I was saying about Kay, and she's looking for something she trusts, and she's looking, there's, I see it up there, Kay is saying, I see it, trust, yes. And that's what we need to learn. We need to learn body language. And I don't mean just NLP. We need to learn intuitively. If the person's backing away, what are you going to do? Come forward and intimidate them? No, let them back away. You can back away too. Now we're communicating the same language. Now we're going to have more success. So we need to have this intuitive energy for a good induction technique. It's not about your legs are relaxing, your head is relaxing. It's about communicating to the subconscious mind by distracting the logical mind. You heard that one now, okay? And the magic that I think of, I often share this with my sons. The magic of life is empathy. If you have difficulty with empathy, you need to look more in the mirror and see what is it that you don't like of yourself that allows you not to be another person. With empathy, we have to be that person. If a person comes in to quit smoking, I have to pretend like I'm a smoker. And I used to be a heavy smoker, so I remember it well. If a person comes in to lose weight and I've never been heavy, I need to pretend like I'm heavy. If a person comes in because they're going through a change of life and they're a woman, I've spoken to enough women who are going through a change of life that I could experience the sensation. I could experience the challenges. Again, as I said earlier, I've hypnotized murderers. I've hypnotized rapists. I worked for the Chicago area police departments for about 5 years, but they never paid me, so I quit working with them. But in the process of working with them, I learned so much about criminals. I learned so much about victims. Sometimes the victims were more criminal than the criminals. Yeah. I remember one time a woman had been molested by a man, and her husband was with, and the state's attorney's office was with. This goes back quite a few years. And the husband wanted to sit in on the hypnosis while I did a regression to find out about this molestation. Ooh, how would that be? Any of you have a thought on that one? The husband wants to sit in, and no, I see your head shaking. No, okay. So of course not. No way, it's not going to work. Well, then we're not going to do it. Okay, then we're not going to do it. And then it's another thing I bring up right away. My success, I contribute a lot to rejecting people. If you go on Yelp and you look up my name or my office, Garrett Wellness Center, and you see reviews, you'll see one review of a guy who commented on the fact that it didn't work. He still smoked. By the way, he wanted to smoke. He didn't want to quit. And he told me that he didn't do well. And I said, okay, come on back in. We'll do it again. No charge. I'll give you your money back. Which one? I knew he wanted his money back. I knew it. He came in with his fiance. His fiance wanted to quit smoking before they got married. And he said yes, but he was saying no. He says, yes, I really want to quit smoking. And so when we hear the language of the subconscious mind, the person who doesn't want to do well will find excuses. Well, what if it doesn't work? Oh, what are you doing here? You know, would you go to an airplane pilot and say, what if you can't land this plane? You attempt not to talk like that. And so I gave him back his money and his fiance's money. And he wrote a wonderful note in Yelp that I gave him back his money with a smile. Because I say this to you, it doesn't cost you anything to hypnotize somebody. It doesn't, Jerry and I were talking about this today. And, she could do somebody's hair, and it's maybe products. She's got to purchase products, but same way with you as a hypnotist. So let's say as a hypnotist, you make them a CD recording or thumb drive or email, whatever's in right now. It's not costing you much for that piece of material. If they don't do well, don't charge them. Give them their money back. If you disagree with me, it's okay. Remember I said, this is not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you what I do, and I've maintained success.
Yep.
It sounds continually like in some way I brag. No, I'm not bragging. I'm stating. I maintain a successful practice. Even now, I haven't seen a client since March 6th of this past year. I've got people like Craig, who you see on the screen, taking care of clients from AF. He works with all the smokers lately, and lately moving on to other things. And I understand from Sally, who runs my office, that he's been having success with all of these smokers. How great is that? You know why? I don't know if Craig's going to talk or not, but he'll tell you, because I hypnotized him to quit smoking. No, I didn't, excuse me. I hypnotized him to not need to smoke. So he knows how to be successful because he's been successful. So the induction has to match the person, has to match why that person's there. You have to be that person. Until you walk in their shoes, you're not going to understand where they're at. So empathy is the magic. I wonder if some of you watch podcasts or listen to podcasts occasionally. If you listen to podcasts, look for a podcast called A Rumor of Empathy. It's done by a man, his name is Lou Gustafson. And he's an older guy and a wise man. And he does 12 episodes on empathy. But if you just listen to the first episode, which is an episode about all of the other podcasts, it's amazing what he teaches you. And he left with one, said, empathy is oxygen for the soul.
So I understand, Larry, that there's different platforms of podcasts. Would you happen to know which one that is? It's like Spotify or?
I found it. I think it's available all over. I think I found it on Apple. I'm not sure.
Okay, so maybe
But
just
if you
go to
Google it-
Google and put that name in.
If you Google it, Kate, it'll just point you to the
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
platform.
it's there.
What's the name again?
A rumor of empathy. A rumor of empathy. But hey, did you hear that statement? Empathy. Hi, Craig. You want to make a comment?
I'm here, I'm listening. I had the baby in the background, so I didn't want to distract anybody, but.
That's okay. Please join us and share with us. How come you're successful with all these smokers?
Honestly, because I experienced it with you. I went through, I know what they're going through, all of the emotions and issues that they have, I've had, and I've addressed them with you, and you taught me how to address so many issues, so.
Yeah, good. Thank you. In fact, Craig and his wife delivered, Colleen, they delivered their son Craigie using hypnosis. I taught Craig in 5 minutes how to hypnotize Colleen. So when she was delivering, he could hypnotize her, right?
Yes.
Then he
No
says,
drugs, no
I'm going to be no drugs. Thank
yeah,
you.
no epidural, no nothing. Just
I'm going to be a
hypnosis.
hypnotist when I grow up, Craig says.
Yeah, that is what pushed me over the edge. That's what got me there.
I'm glad it did. You know, Kay, remember I said earlier, I'd speak for you, Kay, and I am speaking for you. Once you have been hypnotized, as you say you've been, and Lindsay hypnotized you and trained you, and then once you begin, whatever that $10,000 Lindsay charged you, you'll have it back in less than. You got to smile out of Lindsay in that one. So you're right. I'm sure that Craig's gotten his money back. He trained with Dr. Funda Khan here in the Chicago area, and it was exciting because she trains well. She trains well. We've got a couple of hypnotists in my office. Anita Barton is another one, and has great success with whatever she works with. Craig is having great success and moving on to other areas. The reason is because we are learning what I'm sharing with you this evening. This empathy becomes the magic. So be your client. What are they experiencing toward their goal? So you could sit there as you're listening to me and think of clients you've had. If you haven't had any, Kay, have you hypnotized somebody yet? Yes or no? Good.
No.
No, okay. So Kay, I started out hypnotizing my son and his friends. They were all kids at the time. I started out by hypnotizing some people. I remember my first great induction was with my friend Bob. We had been friends since second grade at grammar school. And I might share with you friends that I had before I got involved in hypnosis, I don't seem to have many of those left, if any. It seems like once you get involved in hypnosis, they all kind of drift away. Craig, you notice that happening yet? So, no, I'm not sure why. I think maybe they're jealous. Maybe they're jealous because you've got the skill. So I hypnotized my friend Bob, and there's a great book that I would like you to find on Amazon called Hypnotism and Its Techniques and Uses by Leslie Lecron. Hypnotism, Its Techniques and Uses. And it was written in the 60s, I think 1968. And Leslie Lecron, Craig, I turned you on to that book, didn't I?
No, not that one. It was the other one.
Oh yeah, Intimate Case Histories of a Hypnotist.
No, I think it was the self-hypnosis one.
Yeah, right. The orangish cover. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm thinking the title is Oh, that's it. Thank you, Craig. Self-hypnosis and its techniques and uses in daily living. Yes. Okay. So Leslie Lecron in the book is teaching you how to hypnotize yourself. So I say to Bob, okay, Bob, close your eyes. Wow, he closed his eyes. Did you see that? He closed his eyes. I'm thinking, right? Yes. And I say, okay, Bob, relax your legs. I'm watching his legs. Relax your stomach. I'm watching his stomach. And all of a sudden, he drops his head over. Wow. I got to find the page where it says how to bring him out of this. So that was my first induction, and it was successful from reading some words out of a book. But I might share with you, I taught at Wright College in Chicago for 29 years. I taught self-hypnosis and hypnosis techniques. And I loved the class, but they changed administrations. And any of you work for the Board of Education, you know, when they change administration, probably time to retire or move on. And but 29 years I spent sharing with these people in these classes methods of self-hypnosis, methods of success in their consciousness, and it would teach me often. So the idea is that once we are good at communicating to our own subconscious mind, we might say it's like communicating to your animal, to your pet. I think, I don't know if it was Stephanie or somebody, I saw you with your cat on your lap. This language that we speak to our animals, this language that we should, excuse the should, I don't think this word should, but should speak to ourselves, language that we need to learn to speak to our clients. When I hypnotize a client, I am hypnotizing myself. So when I hypnotize a client, I'll say, okay, relax your legs. And I let my legs relax. Well, today's kind of a tense day. They're not feeling relaxed enough, or is this intuitive? My client's not. So I might say, tighten up the toes gently, tighten up the arches gently, and let those toes and arches relax. Then I might say, and let's move into the lower legs and tighten up those calves gently. And as slow as you can, relax the calves. So that induction is to me for them. What are they experiencing towards public speaking, towards going for an interview for a new position? What do you think this person's experiencing? They've been out of work since last March. They're going in for an interview and they're hoping they get the job because I've got to pay my mortgage and my bills are past due and I need this. And they're not going to get the job because the law of reverse effect steps in. You know law of reverse effect, everybody? You go on The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Murphy, also written. I think that was written.
Yeah.
Who has it? Jake?
Yeah, well, actually, Larry, I have a lending library for hypnotherapists at my office. I had collected over 1,000 books and sundries for people who are part of the Arizona Society for Professional Hypnosis. So yeah, I have that in my cadre.
Wouldn't it be nice now for those of you that aren't in Arizona to be there so we could go into Kate's library? We recently have acquired something similar. Jerry, who's on our screen, and myself were talking a couple of weeks ago. He had Murphy's books, or he has Murphy's book. And he speaks about the law of reverse effect. And the law of reverse effect says the harder we try, the behinder we get. So my favorite one with my clients, I'll say, so if I ask you, don't think of an elephant, no elephants. Of course, we start thinking of an elephant. Don't think about not getting this job. And we go in there thinking, you're not hiring, are you? No. And so I'm saying to you, we need to become our client, and what are they experiencing? In my opinion, you practice the inductions by practicing on yourself. You become the other person. You become the client, whatever they're there for. If you've never experienced something that, if you've never experienced some kind of physical sensation from the opposite sex, speak to every person you know of the opposite sex and say, what does that feel like? What is that about? I could remember over the years asking questions like that. Well, tell me about it. Where do you feel it? Oh, I feel it like just below the stomach. Oh, what does that feel like? Well, maybe like a cramp. Okay, like a stomach cramp. Well, not quite, until you finally get it just right. And now when you speak to that subconscious mind, it will adhere to your words as though it's a feeling. I don't believe in hypnosis there are words that work with the client. They are feelings of the word. If you're motivating a person to...
Can you say that one more time?
Yes, please. Say what I said. I don't feel that it is the words that I choose that I have success with. It's the feeling I have with the words. In other words, what would it feel like if you get this job? Ooh. I'd like you to lie back and imagine in your mind you are feeling that you have gotten this position. Now, what does a person go in looking for the position feel? They feel like they've got the position. They feel like they're going to get it. They feel like, yes. What does it feel like when you are experiencing an absence of craving for that cigarette? I use words in my pre-talk with clients by saying things like, I'm not going to hypnotize you to quit smoking. That's your job. And I say these silly words. Do you know what it feels like to crave a cigarette? Yeah. So I assume most of us don't smoke anymore. So
No, I still smoke. But the thing is that in regards to smoking, I don't have cravings for a cigarette. I use it more as a grounding apparatus, like when I'm visiting my mom in the hospital and I stay as long as I can. So I may be there from 2 to 6 p.m. I don't think of a cigarette. Now, I don't have a desire for a cigarette. I may get into my vehicle and I don't even think of it.
So Kate just gave us our pre-talk that we needed, how to speak to Kate. However, we have an issue. Kate smokes and doesn't want to quit. So that's a different issue. And Kate doesn't have cravings. So we're not able to hypnotize her for cravings. What we need to hypnotize her for is now, as you begin to relax, Kate, feel your feet grounded to the earth. Grounded like that cigarette causes you to feel grounded.
And I really like what you just said because, Larry, you know a little bit about me and some of the other people here is that there's some other abilities I have. And in smoke, like with Native Americans and such, it's a grounding sort of attribute.
Yes, yes. And so go back as I reiterate. What can we do in some way if we were to spend a half hour or an hour with Kate about not needing to smoke? Remember, first off, I've already learned, if you have not, that Kate's not ready to quit, if ever. So that's her choice. But let's assume she wants to quit smoking. Larry, I really need to quit smoking, but every time I need to feel grounded, I have to have that cigarette. Then we need to find out from her, what does it feel like to be grounded? Now I need to feel grounded. So all of us sitting here listening right now have their methods of feeling grounded. But it's a subjective language that Kate's subconscious mind experiences. Remember Kay, as I said earlier, the other Kay, explained that one. So Kate's subconscious language and my subconscious language have learned that grounding is similar for each of us. So if grounding is similar for each of us, then I'm going to say, I need to feel grounded while I'm speaking to her. I could feel grounded as I'm speaking right now. Do you feel grounded in my voice as I'm speaking to you? Yes, yes. Because we are speaking about being grounded. That's what Kate told us. So go back to another issue. So I mentioned cigarettes, and then I want to go back and say, let's talk about weight loss. Let's talk about public speaking. I used to stutter. I share this often, that when I was in 3rd grade, I went to parochial school, and those nuns were nuts. Nuns were nuts because they got none. And nuns were nuts because they got none. So they took it out on the students. Deborah's laughing. It's true. You know, it's funny. Deborah and I, we didn't know it when we were kids. We were raised a few blocks away, not even a few, about 3 blocks away from each other. We've learned this over the years talking to each other. But anyway, I remember Sister Mary Faustina, see, 3rd grade, you know, I need to share with you, the 3rd grade was eons ago. Well, you know, the issue is I'm doing a presentation, and, you know, 3rd grader, and come on, spit it out, Garrett, spit it out. And all the kids would start laughing. Ha, 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 ha. And here's this 3rd grade little guy named Larry Garrett feeling like a nut, feeling really inadequate. And every time I'd start to speak, she wouldn't even let me get the words out. Nothing would come out because she was stuff it and stuff it and stuff it. And even when I first got into hypnosis, I used to stutter. Now, what would it feel like if you stuttered and now are learning how not to stutter? Well, then I have to become a stutterer to know how to teach you how not to stutter. Can you all pretend like you stutter? Yeah, sure you could. Why not? So you pretend like you stutter, pretend like you can't get those S's out. See what I mean? You can't get an S out when you stutter. Stutter S's are hard to get out. Stutters are one of my greatest successes because I used to stutter. Do you think my empathy is strong for a stutterer? Yeah. Do you remember Deborah saying earlier when she was at my talk at the Mid-America that she had heard all these hypnotists speaking, this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it, but nobody's telling her what to do. They're all telling you what they think she should do. And then, you know, then when I speak with this ability to be you. I'm sitting here looking at a screen right now with 15, 18 people, excuse me, and I don't know what all of you are thinking, but I have a good idea. I have a good awareness that probably you're thinking, I would like to be better with hypnosis. That's easy. Was that easy? Was that easy? I would like to earn $100,000 a year doing hypnosis. I'd like to do that. Now, remember, I must have done okay if I haven't worked since March, and people such as Craig Pesic and a couple of others have helped me keep my place open. But the real issue is that is just saying I have maintained the ability to be successful by feeling successful, by teaching my clients to be successful. And I don't teach classes, by the way. I used to teach classes. I hear that I'm being persuaded to going back into teaching with Dr. Funda Khan, but as of now, I haven't taught classes. Well, excuse me, I take that back. I teach classes to other hypnotists. I don't teach classes to people who want to be hypnotists. So I teach classes on smoking. Do you know I have 49 different kinds of smokers listed in this manual I spoke of? 49. Do you know when a firefighter smokes the most? When they put out a fire, when they're all through. Go ahead, is Jerry?
Yep, when they're all done.
Jerry.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna you answered what I was going to say.
Oh, did you think that when they put out the fire?
Yeah, as soon as they put out the fire, they're going to light up a cigarette.
As soon as they put out a fire, they have an urge to smoke. It might not be a grounding feeling like Kate has. It's truly a desire. And you know why they want to smoke when they put out the fire? I see Jody smiling again. She says she always smiles. I like that, Jody. Either nod your head or smile, then I know I'm doing a good job. No heads. Okay, thank you. Okay, you know why they smoke after a fire, anybody? Come on, you must know.
They're relieved that they've done their job.
That's good. They also need to breathe. So if you've never smoked,
Right, that relieved. Relieved.
relieve. If you've never smoked, a smoker takes their cigarette and they go,
And they're taking a deep breath.
right,
they're-
right.
Yes,
Because
yes.
when they're through with the fire, they're going,
Yeah.
choked on a cigarette. The idea is that every smoker has their reasons for smoking. Kate says grounding. Craig, remember that one when you have a smoker for grounding. Yeah, and I like
Well,
that.
again, you need to also take into consideration that there are different, if you will forgive the term, species. So I also happen to be I'm a clairvoyant.
I know you are.
And
I know
I
you are.
remember one time, just to expand on this, that I was at a conference and I was doing readings, clairvoyant readings. And I remember stepping outside and smoking, chain smoking. I do not chain smoke. That's not something I ever did. And I'm just like, what the heck am I doing? And there happened to be a group of shamans around me. And he says, you don't understand what you're doing. And I said, no, I mean, this is killing me. They said, well, you're using the ancient smoke to ground yourself from
Good.
basically,
Good.
communicating
Yeah.
between spirit and the person. So that's what I mean in regards to myself, in regards to grounding.
Yeah.
Also, like when I do hypnosis, when I'm doing hypnosis, I'm there with the client and I'm working with them.
You know what, Kate? Sounds
Yes.
like you've been listening to what I said we should do. You are there. That's right. You heard what Kate says. She's there. I might share with you in my earlier training, my earlier experiences of being involved in attempting to earn a living doing hypnosis, which I may add was not easy. So it was in the 70s. I was on a TV program one day in 1973, and it was here in Chicago. And there were two physicians on with me. I was a stage hypnotist at the time. Mostly that's how I earned my living, because there weren't many people who wanted to quit smoking or lose weight with hypnosis. But there were a lot of people that pay big money to come on stage and teach their friends how to get stuck to a chair. So I'm the stage hypnotist. We've got another person who's a physician. He does medical hypnosis. And we've got another physician who says hypnosis is dangerous and nobody should ever allow themselves to be hypnotized.
Yep.
They might not come out of it. So at the end of that program, the physician who did hypnosis medically, he was in Rockford at the time, he and I clicked. Interesting, Cato like this as a clairvoyant. Interesting how synchronicity worked. His name was Larry, my name was Larry. He was born in Garrett, Indiana. My last name is Garrett. His birthday was January 20th, mine was February 20th. We were both exactly the same age. And we just hit it off. I mean, it was just like, wow, this is really good. So we worked together for 6 years, and I need to share with you, I learned so much from this person. One thing I learned is that asthmatic people smoked more than non-asthmatic. If you notice, people with emphysema will smoke more than people who don't have emphysema, because that's their time to breathe, or we said earlier, to release. A person with emphysema will go, and then they go, you see, and they can breathe as long as they're smoking. Now, such a contradiction, such a dichotomy of life. Yeah, that's what they do. And one thing I learned from him is that many smokers could not smoke in the dark. Now, remember, we don't have many smokers left, but Craig will tell you, Craig works every week with smokers, don't you, Craig?
Yes, every week.
I bet you wouldn't think there's so many smokers left, would you?
The places I hang out, yeah, I really would.
Okay. But there's still a lot of smokers. And I used to always say, I love doing hypnosis, but smokers pay the bills. Because smokers are so easy. Either they quit or they don't quit. When they walk out the door, they never smoke again, or they walk out the door and they're still smoking. But it's an either or. You don't hypnotize a person to lose weight and they lose 20 pounds or they don't lose 20 pounds. Yeah, maybe, but there's an immediate gift to the smoker if they're motivated, if you know. And so,
However, Larry,
okay,
there is one thing that I do in regards to when I'm working with smokers, which I'm particular with, because I'll ask what their motivation and such is, but I will do a delayed sort of smoking cessation so that I will actually plant in their subconscious a date in which they will stop, and I will put it in an envelope and give that to them and say, do not open this until I call you. And always they've stopped smoking 3 weeks before.
yeah.
So there's different methodologies, to go
There
through
sure
that.
is. There sure is. And Kate, I said at the beginning of this presentation, I'll reiterate, I'm not here to tell you what to do. If you have a method that works, do not listen to Larry Garrett.
No. There's all sorts of different
Yeah.
methodologies. I'm just saying that there's one where you can create a delayed response in terms
I'm
of
playing.
when
I'm
the
playing.
conscious and subconscious is ready to release that habituation.
I'm playing with you, Kate.
Pick on me.
I say it again. You missed it too. I said earlier, don't think of an elephant.
Yes.
Do not listen to Larry Garrett. Don't listen to what Larry has to say. I'm playing. So let me go back before I lose my train of thought. Do you know we have less than a half hour left? Yes. Time goes by. So I wanted to tell you another story, but I also wanted to tell you what I by the way, I did 4 pages. I've never done a presentation with notes, never in 50 years. I speak by the seat of my pants. And so I'm going to share with you that I did some notes because doing a presentation on Zoom, I don't have the ambience of the audience. I get up on a stage and, and Deborah will tell you, or anybody else has observed, I dance, I'm all over the place and I'm going into the audience and I'm having fun and laughing and making jokes. And I love what I do. Kate and Deborah will attest to that one. But to do a Zoom is not the same kind of energy. I'm looking at some of you, and when you have an audience, 100 people, you can't see all 100. I could see every one of you. I could see what you're thinking. I could see what's going on in your mind, and could be distractive to me, but it's not. So I put some notes together, but I haven't been able to use my notes yet, and the time's almost up. But I'm going to share with you what all inductions are based on by my perception. Have anybody know this? It's one word.
You mean you're going to get to the point?
There's a guy that I see at every Mid-America Hypnosis Conference, and his name is Robert Nelson. He took about 6 semesters of my classes at Wright College on how to hypnotize yourself. And he says, the only thing I'm asking though is, when are we going to learn how to hypnotize ourselves? You're right. Now you know what? If you haven't met Larry Garrett before, now you've met him. He never gets to the point, but he does. All inductions, by my interpretation, are based on expectation.
Yes.
Expectation. Watch this. What are you watching? Were you waiting for something to happen? So if I could create expectation in my client continually, then everything's going to be okay. I'm going to have a success factor. So, we didn't even speak about instant induction techniques. That's something I really use much, but occasionally. It's good on stage. It's good if you've got a type A personality and they're not going to sit around for a half hour saying, your legs are relaxing. Come on, get on with it, buddy. I don't have all day. And so you might want to move a little quicker. Maybe you want to do something like, say, close your eyes and relax. That person's already started. You see, by closing your eyes, you're removing about 90% of the input to the brain. The other stimulus will be eventually removed as well by getting them to become more engulfed in their own consciousness. And miss a word. You know, all the things that I have not shared with you are in the handout at the end of the email that Skip and Debbie sent out. So if you want to know everything that I didn't say, it's all written there. And you could read about it later. But for now, I wish for you to know, create an expectation for this client.
Yeah.
Any expectation that they're going to be successful. Maybe you create an expectation that this is going to be the best feeling they've ever had. But you have to keep your word. You can't just say that. So I'm going to share with you that an expectation that you might create is by letting them know what's going to occur while they're hypnotized. Now, how would you do that? Would that be almost like the airline pilot that I spoke of in the beginning, knowing how he's going to land or she's going to land that plane? Can you predict what this person's going to feel while they're hypnotized? Yes, yes, by who you are, by how you're communicating. Here's what I know of my style of hypnosis. I work with the principle of expectation throughout my hypnosis. Excuse me. I work on it first in my induction. I might say, feel your legs relaxing if I was doing a slow progressive relaxation. I'm only speaking of progressive relaxation because it's common to most of us and it's quick to discuss. Now just focus on those legs relaxing. Now, as those legs relax, you notice now the other part of your legs starting to relax. Well, obviously, if you start relaxing one part, another part will start, but it's almost like you've created it and the person's mind says, wow, he's right. They are, or whatever. Notice your breathing and getting smooth and even. Do you ever notice a person when they're hypnotized, they breathe like they're sleeping? You could almost count their breaths. So once they start breathing with this nice rhythm, bring it to their attention. Now you're enhancing their expectations because you are predicting what's going on. Also realize there's a time distortion in hypnosis. So they may have not noticed their breathing until you say so. And now you say, and notice your breathing getting smooth and even. And they say, wow, son of a gun, he's right. My breathing is getting smooth. Notice the eyelids fluttering. Do clients flutter their eyelids when they start going into hypnosis? They sure do. As the pupils go up, the eyelids start fluttering, bring it to their attention, and then their eyes start to flutter. So my inductions consist of this now. Now I'm moving into this thing called hypnosis. Boy, we sure have a lot of interpretations for hypnosis, don't we? We could say many, many things. It's relaxation, altered state. I'm going to say, for me, hypnosis is distracting the logic while I speak to the subconscious mind. Because the logic is in the way. The logic is constantly beating us up and judging us that we shouldn't smoke, we are too fat, we don't know how to speak well, we're nervous in front. We're telling ourselves all the time that we're not okay. Yeah. And I need to share with you, I am okay. Thanks to people like Craig, who's taking care of things at my office, and Jerry's a good friend, and especially Teresita, my oncology nurse, I'm okay. Yeah, I am okay. I think to myself, there are a couple of times when I was going through the healing of this thing called cancer where I'm laying there saying, I think I'm leaving. And I didn't leave. So it's okay. But I felt a couple of times, Teresita, I suppose many patients feel that, don't they? They start feeling like they're starting to leave. Yeah, she's shaking her head, yes. And so the fears can engulf you, but I say it as best I can. I don't know of many anxieties I have. I don't think I have any anxieties. I have fears. If somebody comes up and pulls out a gun and says, give me your money, I have a fear he's going to shoot me and I'm going to give this person my money. But I don't have anxiety that he might have a gun. See, anxiety is the what ifs of life. What if this person doesn't respond well to my techniques of hypnosis? Well,
Larry, I think you have a question.
yes, please, Skip.
Jody.
I was just, because of where you were going with that conversation, I was wondering how much, or if you have done past life and life between life sessions, and if that gave you any comfort when you were going through like the cancer stuff, knowing maybe more of what is possibly to meet us and greet us at some point.
Yeah, you mean that I might be leaving this earth, and that if I left this earth, I might meet some other people? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was just wondering
Yeah.
how much. I'm deep into the LBL and past life books right now. So I'm kind of actually just reading a lot more about the spirits, the life between lives, especially. And I was just wondering if you have a lot of just history with that in your practice.
Yeah, I think I, in my practice, oh, excuse me, in my practice or in my own life during healing cancer?
Well, just having the practice and then having to deal with cancer after 50 years of being able to work with clients on something like that.
Sure, sure. I might share with you, Jody, and everybody else. I wish I had another hour to do this, and because I have so many other stories. When I first got involved in hypnosis, past life regressions were common. Between lives was very common. We used to have a psychic on the radio here in Chicago named Joe Who. And Joe Who would have me on his radio program often. Yeah, he did a program on being psychic and callers that would call in, and I would do regressions on his program. And I have many, many stories. In fact, I have a manual if you have an interest on it. I'd be glad to send it to you, Jody, or anybody else. Just send me an email. And it's all about regressions, between lives, past life regressions, this life regression, pre-regressions. And so during my experiences, 3 different times I felt as though I was not going to survive this cancer healing. And it wasn't a fear, it was more of a pleasant feeling of wanting to let go. And I need to share the story of my mother, had cancer in 1969. She had a total radical mastectomy with all of the lymph nodes removed, the left breast removed, no cosmetic surgeries in the 60s. And she tells the story that she was getting ready to die. And she says she felt herself leaving this earth. And she says, wait, I can't die. I've got 2 sons and a husband to take care of. And she says, immediately a surge of energy came back. My surge of energy was that I'm writing a book about this experience. Some of you might belong to the NGH, and I write in the NGH journal each month, the Hypnotism Journal. I'm writing my experiences with this issue called cancer. And it's all the great experiences and how I healed and why, and how these people I just mentioned and a few others took good care of me. So in this question you asked, yes, I did feel that I had actually left my body. We could call it astral travel. We could call it that I was dying or I died and came back. But all I know was I wasn't ready to leave because I had to write this book for other people who would go through this so they would feel better, so they would heal. I really believe my consciousness not only helped me heal, but quicker. I couldn't eat for 2 months. I had to wear a stomach tube, a G-tube, to be fed for 2 months. I could barely walk for 2 months because the chemo knocked the heck out of my body. But I never once got scared or angry or uncomfortable. And I share that with you because that's me. That's my consciousness. I practice what I'm teaching you. I also might share with you that you might like this story, Jody, is my mother came to visit me twice. My mother's been dead since 2007, but she was standing in my bedroom door a couple of times when I felt like I was not going to come out of this. And she stood there and I felt the reassurance coming from her. So some people say, oh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in you. So what can we do about that one? You know, it's okay. We don't need to believe everything. We need to just accept that somebody else might believe in it, like yourself, Jody, that you just spoke of. I have not chosen to not believe in something in many, many years. If you say to me, I'm going to be a millionaire in this next coming year, I'm going to believe you because then I'm going to help you by having you feel a belief from me that you could do it. See, so consciousness comes in many ways, language especially. There isn't a grocery store around where the checkout person doesn't feel better when I leave. Again, it sounds like ego, but it's not, because I am talking to him or her. I'm making them feel important. I'm saying great things. If I see a slouchy look, I'll say, are you ready to go home? Yeah. I'll bet you were ready when you got here. I was, you're right. And now they're feeling better because somebody understands them. Somebody's speaking their language. We need to speak the language of the person we're communicating to. And then we could do anything. How about this? How about before we run out of time, I don't wish to leave any of you hanging. Whoever would like to share, go ahead, please, Debbie. It's all yours, Debbie. You got the floor. Turn off your microphone. Turn on your microphone, Debbie. Debbie, I can't hear you. Your microphone's on mute.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay.
With especially what Jody was talking about, the life between lives, do you agree or disagree as far as our emotions creating our diseases and being able, working with people's emotions to really help direct their healing path? How did you do any of that? Was that any of your decision making in like the chemo, whatever method you chose to go with for your healing?
Boy, good questions, and I've got some great answers. First off, yes, I believe the emotions create our challenges of the body. I think the word is called dis-ease. So when we are not at ease, we are in dis-ease. And when we are in dis-ease, the body will follow through. Secondly, I think that I may have created this thing called cancer in my own body emotionally, although it was physical in nature. I had neck and tongue cancer. So some of you could look that up, and I know it's usually a woman's type of cancer, but I had this in my neck and the back of my tongue. But I'm going to tell you how I feel I created it. And I've just realized this in the past month or so. And that is, for a long time, I have been working with hypnosis, as we've already determined, 50 years. I've never had a 2-week vacation. I've never taken more than a few days off at a time because my clients need me. See, that was probably ego there. So I can't take time off. But that's not true. And I used to say to Sally, who runs my office for the past 20 years, I'd say, boy, I wish I could take a year off. If I could take a year off, I'd be so happy. Well, this month, it's a year that since I've been able to do hypnosis. I see you smiling, Debbie. Yes. So I think in that way, I emotionally set myself up for something that would knock me down. And isn't it an interesting coincidence too? It could have been the pandemic. But I think I would have suffered more from the pandemic than I did from cancer. I think then to reiterate your words or repeat some of the things that you brought up, I think also the healing that I did was strictly with constant allowing or permission and trust of my caregivers. Hi, Craigie. I often used to say, if I ever had cancer, I would never do chemo. My mother had cancer 4 different times, and chemo is not a good feeling. And I would always say that if I ever had cancer, I would never do chemo. And when the first oncologist or neck doctor says, you have cancer in the neck, by the way, that was a lousy hospital. Okay, Kate just sent me a note, sorry. And it wasn't even polite. I don't want to get carried away, but he made me angry. He called me on the phone. I was busy making a cabinet in my office, and he says, Mr. Garrett? And I says, yes. He says, you know that bump on your neck? Yeah, it's cancerous. You'd think he would have had me come into his office and sit down and say, we've got something to discuss with you. It's kind of sensitive. And some of you heard me mention Dr. Funda Khan. Her husband and her are both oral surgeons. And her husband said, I haven't got time to share the story with you, but I was very down because of the way this man spoke to me and told me all the things that were going to go wrong. You're going to have a feeder tube. You're going to have a port. You're going to be sick. I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't want to hear negative things. By the way, all of them did happen. I just didn't want to hear them. But when I sat down and I spoke to the neck surgeon at University of Chicago Hospital where Teresita works, she was so gentle, so nice with me. She said, I understand you have a little challenge. Oh, no, I have a little challenge. I got a bump on my neck. That's a challenge I've got. And she said, well, you know, if you'd like to, I'd be glad to visit with you. I would love to visit with you. When? Well, we've got a waiting list. You have to wait a while. Okay. She says, I'll have my nurse call you back and let you know when. So the nurse calls back, says, can you be in Monday? I'm there. By the way, I was doing Chinese teas at the same time to heal. And I don't have enough time. See, I told you we'd run out of time, Skip, and I didn't even tell you why I'm here. But those are the stories that Debbie's asking. Please, another story. Otherwise, I'll get carried away on that story. Who else has a story? Who else has a question? Stephanie, can you talk? No.
I think I can talk now, but I have to leave.
Good.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. And one comment is I came because I'm actually teaching someone who's already an experienced meditation practitioner how to use hypnosis so that he can get people to that same state without taking 2 days of sitting there. And one of the things that I've said, I smile because every once in a while I feel like I've learned something along the way, and you confirmed it, because I talk to people about confusing and using the difference and the similarity between causation and correlation. So as we're doing something, you know, like the swinging watch, sometimes I'll do that and I'll explain it. And while I'm explaining it, they're actually going into hypnosis. I'm saying, of course your eyes are getting heavy now, right? So I say it and then it happens and you think I made it happen. And even as I'm explaining it, it still works.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you for talking about that, because I think that's part of the magic, is that we can understand it.
Part of the magic that we can understand it. Yes.
And it still works. It's like Penn and Teller, right? They do transparent magic. And even though you know how the trick works, you're still amazed. And so
you're right. You're right. Even though you know how it works.
Yeah.
You know, I got distracted. I get distracted easy, but that's, you know, it's who I am. I have no apologies. I need to speak of what you just spoke of that I was ready to, and somehow I went somewhere else. And that was about expectation. When I'm doing suggestions while the person is either being hypnotized or is hypnotized, whatever that is, I think they're hypnotized as soon as they walk in my office, but while I'm going through this process, I will speak like this. And you'll feel so much better not needing to smoke. And the person's mind's going, yeah, tell me more. And that pausing is so powerful, because by pausing, the person is sitting there waiting, anticipating, expecting. And then I'll speak a little bit more and I pause. And I use music in between, by the way, because I feel music speaks volumes to the subconscious mind. I like a piece, if you want to try it, called Essence by Peter Cater. There's a lot of music that's made for me, but Essence by Peter Cater is good because it starts out with some chanting, some female chanting. And I say, and feel yourself taking a deep breath in as they chant. And now release the breath slowly during the silence. And it's a nice piece for doing an induction. It's a nice piece for offering suggestions. So that's one issue. The next issue I want to speak of, it's in this handout that's at the beginning of, or the end of the email today, and that is the hypnotic rhythm. I said before I got distracted, we could predict what they're going to feel. And I say to the person, and when I hypnotize you, sometime you will hear me and sometime you won't hear me. Sometime you'll be listening and sometime you'll be feeling. Sometime there'll be no sounds at all, and you'll just be sitting there in this glowing feeling. That's called a hypnotic rhythm. If you've already looked at the handout, you'll see it's, I wish I knew how to do the thing Skip asked me earlier about doing a PowerPoint, and I'd show the hypnotic rhythm. You hear me, and then you drift away and don't hear me. You hear me, and I think that this hypnotic rhythm is the power what I could offer the client ahead of time so that that I've created their expectation. All of this together, as you just said so well, Stephanie, better than I can, it's teaching them the magic. Even though they know the magic, they can't see it happening, but they feel it. And as I say that, I have notes that I never read, but I just remembered. Refrain from making this seem so special and mystical to your clients, like you're some kind of guru or something. Just be genuine with them and tell them what you're doing and tell them why it works, and they'll do better. By you making it mysterious, they're looking and not paying attention, and your ego is getting in the way of how great you are. You know, when you go to the hypnosis conferences, you often hear people say how great they are. Maybe I've shared with you multiple times tonight that I'm good at what I do, but I'm good at what I do. It's not to tell you that I'm great because my ego says, tell these people how great you are. I care. I'm sincere. I have love for everybody that I meet. Most of us have never met in person, but those that have, excuse me, know that if you need something, I'm there for you. So I'm going to sort of wind down so you could talk and say, you write to me, larrygarrett.gwc@gmail.com. The GWC stands for Garrett Wellness Center. larrygarrett.gwc@gmail.com. And I would be glad to send you almost anything you can think of. As I say, I have about 200 articles. I have, I've written 4 books. I have manuals. So you have a need, I'm sure I could find it for you. And it doesn't.
Do you have a website, or is it just
I
your
do.
email
I have a
that you-
website. Easiest one is larrygarrett.com. And as you get a website, I suggest that you get a website by your name, of your name. It cost me $2,000 for larrygarrett.com because somebody else got it in 2003 and he or she kept advertising other hypnotists. What do you think of that? And so, you know, I spoke to my accountant. I says, I can't let him do that. You know, he could ruin my name. He could make me seem different, because if you go to larrygarrett.com and you're getting somebody who's doing things that aren't appropriate, you could be in trouble. So if you don't have something with your name, okay, you're just starting, find it. Costs you $10 a year, I think, something like that. Cost me $2,000 to get it and $10 a year to keep it. So, and recently I lost one of my website names from one of my books. One of my books is called Healing the Enemy. So I had healingtheenemy.com for the last 15 years. And somehow the hosting company forgot to renew it. And somebody got it and wants $2,700 for it. They could keep it though. I got healingtheenemy.org. What's the difference? So other questions? None. Good.
Larry, I just want to make a comment, because you were talking earlier about, you know, how important emotions and feelings are. And one of the things that I tell my clients when they first come is that because most of the time they're focusing on why they're there, the situation, and it's kind of overwhelming. And I say, well, how about if you think about this? Instead of focusing on what you don't want, why don't you, what would you think if you focused on what you want instead? And then how do you think that would feel?
Yeah.
And,
What would it,
and
yeah.
so
What would
you
it
know,
feel like to get that job?
yeah, what would it feel like to, you know, to not be a smoker anymore? You know, think about what that feels like, instead of like, oh, I don't want to smoke anymore, you know, and been a smoker so instead of focusing on what you don't want or you don't want to think about, why don't you focus on the feeling of what you want and what would it be like to be able to breathe in the morning again? So just little things, instead of focusing on what you don't want anymore, focus on what you want. And
Like that.
and how that would make you feel, because we're, you know, it's all about the feelings, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say.
Sure. And I might comment on that a little bit further. I often like to say, I started to say it earlier, and again, I get off on somewhere else. I'm not hypnotizing somebody. I'm teaching them how to feel their needs. So I often say, do you know what it feels like to crave those cookies? Yes. Well, let's teach you what it feels like to not crave those cookies.
Right.
Yes, so sharing with them that this is an educational process to their subconscious mind often has greater success for me than telling them, like, hey, and you won't smoke those cigarettes. You want to bet? We're not going to like cookies. When I started hypnosis, that was the only way. And I'm sure Lindsay will attest to this, when I started in hypnosis, it was all authoritarian. The cigarettes taste terrible and you will choke on them. You will have cancer if you keep smoking them. Horrible, horrible things to tell people. That was common. I learned that way also. So we have to design, we have to become an individual artist. Please, a couple more and then Skip's going to kick us off. He's got, you see, watch Skip, he's got his finger on that button, ready to end the session. See? Skip, who has a question or a comment? Anybody? We are finished.
Thank you. Thank you
All right.
so much. Really.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Larry.
I enjoyed it. You know, I came here to have fun. I didn't come here to educate. I came here to share. And if you pick up one idea, just one in the last 2 hours, you will feel that idea for the rest of your life. I remember, you know, Kate mentioned she has all these books. I remember buying all these books when I first started. And if I got one idea out of another book, I was happy because it's basically the same. Okay, I really enjoyed doing this. I love all of you for your patience in the past 2 hours. Feel free to contact me anytime, and I'm here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Larry, you said
Thank
you
you
wish you
so
had more
much.
time.
Say
You
it
said
again,
you wish
Skip?
you had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And so we can arrange that in the future. We can.
Yeah, we'll do a different topic and talk about the same thing.
Absolutely. This is like a gathering of friends sharing ideas, and it was so fun. It was enlightening, but it was also validating to hear that we're all doing similar things, or a lot of us are doing similar things, and
Yes.
we're coming from energy and we're coming from love,
Yes.
and we're all exactly the same.
Thank
And when
you.
we get to
Thank
that
you.
point, we understand that, then
Yeah.
we really start to understand how we can help our fellow man.
I am so honored with your words and humbled, and again, I say it as best I can. And Mary Hart, it's nice to see you. Hi. And so, yes, it was a great experience for me because this is the first presentation I've done on Zoom. By the way, here's another one. Deborah will tell you this one before you leave. The first Sunday of every month, we have a Zoom meeting, and we used to have it at my office, but because of COVID, now we do it on Zoom, and we have so much fun. Last week, Deborah Andrews, who's here with us, thought of a topic, lucid dreaming. Boy, did we have fun with that one. And
That
a
was wonderful.
good
It
friend
was
of mine, a psychiatrist who studies or who works with sleep disorders, and he joined in and gave us information we could never find in a book or from another hypnotist. And so I welcome you to join that. If you send me an email, I will send it off to you. Good night, everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Skip. Thank you very much, Skip.
Bye,
Yep.
Anna.
Good night.
If I
Good
can ask,
night, everybody.
if I can ask the board to stay, just the board.
Okay.
So Debbie and Jody and Odette and Lindsay, if you'd like to stay for just a few moments, we want to talk about some stuff. Everybody else is free to sign off.
Okay,
Thanks
I'm gonna
very much
stop
for showing
recording,
up.
okay?
What a great session. Really enjoyed it.